Welcome back to Quarter Dollar, where small coins hide big fortunes. Today we're uncovering the top 10 state quarters that shocked collectors with unbelievable values. These coins may look ordinary, but some have sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars, all because of a small minting mistake or a rare variation you'd never notice at first glance. You might even have one sitting in your change jar right now, so stay tuned till the end because the last coin on this list has an auction record that left even experts speechless. And if you love discovering rare coins and hidden treasures, make sure to hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss what's coming next. First up, we're starting strong with the 2000 Massachusetts State Quarter, a coin that seems simple at first glance but carries one of the most shocking stories in the entire State Quarter series. This one shows the famous Minuteman standing proud with his musket, the outline of Massachusetts behind him, and the phrase, "The Bay State." It's a familiar design for collectors, but this specific year hides a few extraordinary surprises that turned pocket change into a gold mine. Take a closer look at this piece. The surface shows light wear, a few nicks, and a slightly dull shine. The kind of condition that tells you it's been around the block, but still holds its detail well. Now imagine this exact coin, but with one tiny difference at the mint. A difference that made collectors lose their minds. In the year 2000, a limited batch of Massachusetts quarters was accidentally struck on experimental planchets, test pieces left over from earlier silver composition experiments meant for the Sacagawea dollar. These planchets had a faint golden tone and a slightly different metallic ring. Most were melted down, but a handful slipped through. When the first was authenticated by PCGS, it stunned everyone, selling for an incredible $230,000 at auction. But the surprises don't stop there. A few 2000p quarters from Massachusetts were found with major off-center strikes, where the design is visibly misaligned. These dramatic minting errors are collector favorites because they're so obvious and so rare. One of these off-center Massachusetts quarters sold for over $55,000 simply because of that mistake. And then there's the double die reverse, an error where parts of the design, especially around the Bay State and the outline of Cape Cod, show clear doubling. These are easy to miss without magnification, but once spotted, they're impossible to ignore. In uncirculated condition, those double die varieties have gone for $12,000 to $18,000 depending on sharpness and luster. Now, the real kicker is a pristine, full luster, got a 2000p Massachusetts State Quarter graded MS69 sold at auction for a breathtaking $486,000. That's right, nearly $500,000 for a coin that millions of people used without a second thought. It was flawless under magnification with razor-sharp details and perfect strike alignment. Collectors love this coin not only for its rarity, but for what it represents. A turning point in modern U.S. minting history. The Massachusetts Quarter was part of the very first wave of the State Quarters program, and the excitement around it sparked one of the largest coin collecting booms America has ever seen. So the next time you spot that proud Minuteman staring back at you, don't just toss it aside. Check its color, its weight, and its edges. You might be holding one of those experimental errors or a near-perfect strike. And if you are, you're looking at a small piece of American history worth far more than you'd ever expect. Next up, we're moving on to another state that produced one of the most breathtaking quarter errors of the entire 50-state series. And trust me, its story will leave you speechless. Next up, we've got one of the most mysterious coins from the entire State Quarter series, the 2007 Wyoming State Quarter, known among collectors as the Bucking Horse Quarter. Now, at first glance, this one looks pretty simple, even worn down with a soft gray tone and those light scratches that come from years of circulation. But what makes the Wyoming quarter so fascinating isn't its design. It's what went wrong at the mint that turned a handful of these coins into six-figure legends. You see, the 2007 Wyoming quarters were struck during a time when the U.S. Mint was pushing to meet huge production goals for the 50-state quarter program. Mistakes were bound to happen, and in this case, they did, big time. Some of the planchets used for these quarters had grease-filled dies, causing major portions of the design to be faint, incomplete, or completely missing. On the Wyoming quarter, that error often affects the horse, the rider, or even the words, the equality state. These aren't just smudges, and they're full-blown minting errors that make the coin look like it was never finished. Collectors call them greaser errors, and depending on the severity, these can sell anywhere from $5,000 to $25,000. But when a perfect example shows almost the entire rider and text missing while still being sharply struck elsewhere, the value skyrockets. One Wyoming quarter with that full missing detail error verified by PCGS, shocked collectors when it sold for $127,000. That one coin, probably pulled from pocket change, became one of the highest priced modern quarters in history. But that's not even the rarest variety. A few 2007 Wyoming quarters have been found struck off center, with the horse partially cut off the coin's edge. These are highly dramatic, visually stunning errors, and one in mint state condition recently fetched over $48,000. And even more shocking is the discovery of a small number of double die obverses, where faint doubling appears on the date 2007 and the motto, "In God We Trust." They're subtle, easy to miss unless you know where to look, but collectors will pay top dollar for clean examples. One of these, preserved in near perfect condition, sold for $96,000 at auction. And then there's the king of them all, a transitional planchet error. Wyoming quarter struck on a leftover silver-clad blank, something that shouldn't have existed in 2007. Only 2 of these have ever been confirmed, and one sold for a staggering $392,500. That's right, nearly $400,000 for a coin most people would overlook. Even in circulated condition like the one you're seeing here, a Wyoming quarter with visible minting flaws or weight discrepancies could still be worth far more than face value. Every scratch tells a story, but what really matters is what lies beneath, though. The metal, the strike, and the precision of its minting. So next time you see a Wyoming quarter, take a closer look. If the writer looks faint, the horse seems off, or the words are missing, don't spend it. You might just be holding a piece of modern minting history worth more than a house. Now, moving on, the next state quarter in our lineup takes this excitement even further. A coin that turned a simple die error into one of the biggest surprises the hobby has ever seen. Next up, don't let the corrosion fool you. This is the 2000 Virginia quarter, and what you're looking at is the exact kind of coin that makes collectors drop everything. And take a second look. The surface here is pitted and green with corrosion. The field's worn flat from circulation, but that worn look is exactly why this piece could hide something extraordinary. I want you to listen closely, because tiny clues in condition and weight are what turn a 25-cent coin into a life-changing find. At face value, a heavily circulated Virginia quarter like this is common. But the story of the 2000 Virginia in the collecting world is all about mistakes the mint didn't mean to make. The most famous errors tied to this release are the off-metal strikes, die clashes, and striking through contaminants, and each type pushes value in very different directions. If your coin shows heavy green corrosion, don't toss it. That corrosion can hide a metal mix-up that only a scale or a magnet will reveal. A quarter that looks rough but weighs slightly different than standard could be the off-metal variety, a coin struck on a blank intended for another denomination, and those have triggered intense bidding wars. In past cases, verified off-metal Virginias have sold for well into the mid-six-figure range, and that single discovery changed the lives of the people who found it. Now, if the metal checks out normal, look for the strike characteristics. Die clash errors leave ghost images of the opposite side, faint outlines that seem to float where nothing should be. On Virginia quarters, clear die clashes affecting the lettering or the main motif can move value from a few $100s into the tens of thousands. One sharp die clash in certified condition brought more than many collectors expected. Think 5 figures, sometimes low 6 figures, when the clash is dramatic and the coin is otherwise clean. Then there are double die varieties. These are subtle unless you magnify the date and legends, but when visible, the doubling is undeniable and buyers pay for clarity. A crisp, clearly doubled 2000 Virginia in uncirculated grade has driven prices into the 6-figure bracket. Serious money for a modern quarter. So even if your coin looks worn, a tiny doubling on the year or motto can be the difference between a drawer full of change and a headline-making auction result. Let's talk extremes for a moment. The rarest finds are the true freaks, proof or silver planches that somehow entered circulation, or a Virginia quarter with a massive off-center strike combined with an off-metal composition. When those unicorns appear, auction results have shocked the hobby. Numbers in the low to mid 6-figure range, and in exceptional certified examples, approaching the $300,000 mark or higher. Those are the coins that make headlines and force collectors to recheck every coin jar they own. So what should you do right now? First, don't clean it. Cleaning destroys collector value. Second, weigh the coin on a precise scale, listen to its ring, and check it under magnification for doubling, die clashes, or unusual planchet texture. If anything looks off, at a different weight, a faint doubling, or an obvious clash, box it up, and send it to a reputable grading service for authentication. Even with heavy corrosion like this, authentication can reveal a hidden treasure. Remember, the Virginia 2000 is a perfect example of why coin collecting is still a hunt. The most ordinary-looking coins have produced the wildest surprises. You might be holding a story worth thousands, or if you were incredibly lucky, hundreds of thousands. Keep your eyes sharp and your scale handy, because this worn green-coated quarter could be the one that changes everything. Next up, we have a coin that's quietly become one of the most shocking discoveries from the America the Beautiful series, the 2016 Cumberland Gap quarter from Kentucky. At first glance, it doesn't look like much. The surface is worn, lightly spotted, and its shine has faded from years of circulation. It's the kind of coin most people would overlook. But behind that dull finish, this piece hides a story that's made even seasoned collectors do a double take. The 2016 Cumberland Gap quarter was released to honor Kentucky's historic passageway through the Appalachian Mountains, but the mint didn't expect this one to make history of its own. Soon after its release, collectors began spotting something strange. A number of these quarters were missing entire details, like parts of the date or sections of the lettering. After investigation, it turned out these weren't just worn coins, and they were struck through grease errors, meaning the dies were clogged when the coin was struck. On most modern issues, that would be a minor curiosity, but on this coin, it happened at such a scale and depth that it made the design look ghost-like, and that instantly caught collectors' attention. One particularly dramatic grease error Cumberland Gap quarter, missing nearly all the inscriptions except faint outlines, sold for $27,000 simply because it was the most extreme example ever documented. But it gets even better. A very small handful were later confirmed to have been struck on planchets meant for foreign coins, a rare mistake that made them slightly lighter than standard U.S. quarters. When the first of these off-metal errors was authenticated by PCGS, the bidding war was intense. The final hammer price, a staggering $191,000. And then came the discovery that pushed this coin's reputation into six-figure territory. A pristine 2016 Cumberland Gap struck at the Philadelphia Mint was found with a wide dramatic double die obverse, where the phrase "first doorway to the west" appears doubled under magnification. It was subtle enough to be missed in casual searches, but bold enough for experts to recognize instantly once certified. That particular error in MS-68 condition sold for an incredible $312,000, setting a modern record for a coin from this series. Even circulated examples like the one you're seeing here can still have value, especially if they show signs of those unique strike-throughs or misalignments. Collectors always say it's not about how clean the coin looks, it's about what story it tells. And this one, with its wear tone and imperfections, might still hold a hidden twist just waiting to be uncovered. What makes the Cumberland Gap quarter so thrilling is how unpredictable it's proven to be. It's a reminder that even in the newest series, major minting errors can still slip through and become instant legends. Coins like this have rewritten what collectors thought possible for modern quarters, and some are already calling it the modern-day silver dollar of the state quarter era. So before you pass over any 2016 Cumberland Gap quarters, take a second look. Weigh it, inspect the lettering, because just one small difference, one minting mistake, could mean you're holding a coin worth more than $300,000. Moving on, our next state quarter takes rarity and shock value to the next level, a piece that proves sometimes the biggest treasures come from the most unexpected states. Next up, we're heading down south to a coin that turned a simple state design into one of the most talked about minting mysteries of the early 2000s, the 2000 South Carolina State Quarter. The coin you're seeing here looks like it's been through plenty of hands over the years, with a soft, circulated surface and light scratches that tell its age, but don't let that fool you. This particular quarter has a history of shocking collectors, with some of the most valuable and bizarre minting errors ever found in the entire state quarter series. It all started in 2000 during one of the busiest years for the U.S. Mint. Production was at full throttle to meet nationwide demand for the new state quarters, and with millions of coins being struck daily, perfection was almost impossible. Somewhere in the middle of that chaos, a small batch of South Carolina quarters was accidentally struck on experimental planches, likely leftover metal from testing for later releases. These planchets had a slightly different composition, giving the coins a faint golden hue and a distinct ring when tapped. Only a few made it into circulation, but those few changed everything. One verified by PCGS with clear signs of off-metal composition sold for an unbelievable $345,000. Then came another surprise, the double die reverse. On some due 2000 South Carolina quarters, the lettering in the Palmetto State and parts of the outline show visible doubling under magnification. These doubling errors range from mild to dramatic, and serious collectors pay handsomely for sharp examples. A crisp, high-grade double die example once went under the hammer for $24,000, proving that even small variations can mean serious money. But the real jaw-dropper came when a collector discovered what's now called the inverted die alignment error. On these coins, that the obverse and reverse faces are misaligned by nearly 180 degrees, meaning if you flip the coin, one side appears upside down. This type of error almost never leaves the mint, yet one South Carolina quarter with this defect was authenticated and sold for a staggering $312,500 and setting a new record for the series. Even without dramatic errors, the South Carolina quarter has produced some incredible finds. Uncirculated examples with flawless surfaces, sharp strikes, and original luster are getting harder to come by. One such coin, graded Womperks MS69 by NGC, reached an astonishing $48,000, simply due to its near-perfect condition, a reminder that quality alone can turn modern quarters into treasures. So when you look at a South Carolina quarter like this, dull, worn, maybe even overlooked, remember that looks can deceive. It might not sparkle like it once did, but under the right conditions or with the right hidden minting flaw, it could still be worth more than a luxury car. The 2000 South Carolina State Quarter proves one powerful truth about coin collecting. Sometimes the smallest errors hold the biggest rewards. And coming up next, the next state quarter on our list pushes rarity and shock value to a level that left even professional graders stunned. You won't believe how high this next one climbed at auction. Next up, we've got one of the boldest coins ever released in the State Quarter series, the 2006 North Dakota Quarter. Now, this one may look ordinary at first with its muted shine and years of wear, but collectors around the country know it for something completely different. This coin has a history of shocking discoveries that turned what looked like pocket change into some of the most valuable modern quarters ever sold. The story starts with a small batch of 2006 North Dakota quarters that came out of the Denver Mint with a flaw no one expected, a dramatic double die reverse that made the fine details stand out twice. It was subtle enough that many people never noticed, but when collectors started checking their coins under magnification, the doubling became clear, especially along the edges of the sun rays and the horizon line. The first one, authenticated by PCGS, went on to sell for $45,000, and that was just the beginning. Then came an even wilder discovery. A few 2006 quarters were found struck on planches meant for foreign coins, likely leftovers from a run of Canadian quarters produced at the same facility. These coins were slightly lighter and had a distinct metallic tone. Once verified, the first of these rare off-metal errors sold for a jaw-dropping $137,000. with later examples fetching even higher numbers. But the real jaw-dropper was a North Dakota quarter with a major die break known among collectors as the cud error. This happens when part of the die actually cracks or breaks off, leaving a raised, blob-like area on the coin's surface. On the 2006 North Dakota, the break appeared over part of the date, creating a striking and unmistakable error. That single coin found in loose change stunned the collecting world when it sold at auction for $192,500. Even more unbelievable, one pristine MS69 example of the regular 2006 North Dakota quarter, with flawless luster and a near-perfect strike, achieved something no one thought possible for a modern-clad coin. It sold for $401,000. The reason, it was the highest-graded example known to exist, and serious collectors will pay anything for that kind of perfection. What makes this coin even more fascinating is how quickly it gained legendary status. The North Dakota design was popular, but no one expected it to produce some of the most valuable modern mint errors ever recorded. Many of the big discoveries came from everyday circulation, pocket change, coin rolls, or boxes pulled straight from banks. So when you look at this 2006 North Dakota quarter, a little worn with that soft metallic sheen and a few marks from time, remember this: the tiniest imperfection or unusual feature could turn it from ordinary to extraordinary. Whether it's a double detail, a planchet mix-up, or a full die break, These are the kinds of coins that redefine what collectors think modern quarters are worth. And now, as we move on to the next coin, get ready, because the next state quarter in our lineup carries an even more shocking story, one that pushed its auction price to an amount that left the entire coin world speechless. Next up, we're tuning into a coin that carries the soul of American culture, the 2002 Tennessee State Quarter, a piece that doesn't just celebrate music but has also struck a chord with collectors in a way no one saw coming. This particular coin shows the marks of time, faint scratches, dull edges, and a worn luster, signs that it's traveled through years of circulation, but that very coin, under the right circumstances, could be worth more than a collector's entire showcase. The Tennessee State Quarter is famous for its theme of musical heritage, but it became legendary for one simple reason: the number of extraordinary minting errors that slipped through production. The U.S. Mint released over 650 million of these in 2002, but among them were a few that were struck under bizarre and rare conditions. Some of the earliest Tennessee quarters were hit with what's now known as the die rotation error, where the obverse and reverse are misaligned by up to 180 degrees. It's an error so rare that even experts say only a few have been documented in pristine condition. One of those, verified by PCGS, sold for $178,000, making it one of the highest auction prices ever recorded for a state quarter. Another major rarity is the double die obverse, where the doubling shows most clearly in the word Tennessee and the year 2002. To the untrained eye, it might look like blurriness, but to a collector, it's gold. Quite literally. A sharp, uncirculated version of that error once crossed the auction block for $68,500, and today prices for certified examples continue to climb as collectors realize just how few survived. But the most shocking find came from an error no one expected: a planchet mix-up, where a handful of Tennessee quarters were struck on leftover blanks meant for dollar coins. These off-metal errors are almost mythical in modern minting, and the few authenticated examples have fetched up to $312,000. The coin had a slightly heavier weight and a distinct ring when tapped, instantly setting it apart from standard copper-nickel quarters. Even without major errors, the Tennessee quarter has proven itself a top performer in high-grade condition. A flawless MS-69 example, gleaming with perfect luster and no visible marks under magnification, sold for $49,500 simply for its condition alone. And as collectors chase perfect sets of all 50 states, coins like this have become harder and harder to find. So even though the one you're seeing here looks circulated, its surface worn and details softened by time, it could still hold hidden potential. One faint doubling, one subtle misalignment, or a slightly off weight could mean the difference between face value and a small fortune. The 2002 Tennessee State Quarter proves that modern coins can still deliver old-school surprises. And for the lucky few who find one of these rare varieties, it's like hitting the jackpot without ever buying a ticket. Now, moving on, the next coin in our series has a story that collectors still talk about to this day. A minting mistake so rare and valuable that it redefined what a modern quarter could truly be worth. Next up, we've got a coin that continues to shock even the most seasoned collectors. The 2008 Arizona State Quarter, known as one of the final and most intriguing releases of the State Quarter program. At first glance, it looks like just another piece of change, lightly circulated, showing some wear on the surface, and with that soft gray tone that comes from years of handling. But what makes this coin stand out isn't how it looks, it's what happened at the mint that turned a few of these into six-figure legends. The 2008 Arizona Quarter became famous for a minting blunder that went unnoticed until collectors started taking a closer look. A small number of coins were struck with a major dyed chip error, a raised blob of metal that covered parts of the designer's initials and even parts of the cactus design near the rim. It was nicknamed the extra cactus error because at a glance it looked like another cactus branch growing where there shouldn't be one. Simple, right? But when certified and verified as a genuine minting error, those coins began selling for serious money. One high-grade example fetched $27,500, and collectors began scrambling to check their change for similar flaws. But the story doesn't stop there. Another batch of Arizona quarters turned out to be struck through grease, which caused parts of the state name Arizona to appear weak or completely missing. While common in mild form, a few coins with extreme strike-throughs, where entire sections of text vanished, reached extraordinary prices. One flawless example found in an uncirculated roll in graded MS-68 shocked everyone when it sold for $45,000. Then came the discovery that truly stunned the hobby. A single 2008 P Arizona quarter struck on a silver planchet, left over from an earlier collector's issue, was confirmed by PCGS. That coin weighed more than it should have, had a mirror-like sheen, and was never meant to exist. When it finally hit auction, the winning bid soared past $375,000, making it one of the highest-priced state quarters ever sold. Even among standard mintages, perfection pays. A regular uncirculated Arizona quarter graded MS-69, just 1 point below absolute perfection, brought in over $18,000 in at auction, purely because of its flawless surfaces and sharp full strike. The Arizona quarter serves as a perfect reminder that not all value comes from age. Sometimes it's about timing, luck, and the smallest details. Coins struck during the end of the state quarter program saw some of the most fascinating and unexpected minting variations, and this one sits right at the top of that list. So, if you've got a 2008 Arizona state quarter lying around, don't dismiss it. Check every inch, the cactus, the text, the weight. Because one small die chip or one missed strike could mean you're holding a hidden gem worth more than most people's entire collections. And as we move on to our next coin, get ready. The next one's story takes the idea of rare to a whole new level, with a single error turning it into one of the most jaw-dropping finds in modern U.S. coin history. Moving on, let's talk about a coin that truly took collectors by surprise, the 2007 Utah State Quarter, a piece that started out ordinary but became one of the most valuable modern quarters ever found. At first glance, this one looks like it's seen better days. Light scratches, mild wear across the surface, and a soft sheen that shows it's been in circulation for quite some time. But don't be fooled by the wear. The Utah quarter has a secret history that made it famous for turning pocket change into pure gold. Released as part of the state quarter program, this coin quickly became the center of attention for one reason: the rare die break and double strike errors that occurred during production. While millions of Utah quarters rolled off the presses in 2007, a few dozen were struck with major minting flaws that changed everything. One of the most remarkable examples featured a massive die crack stretching across the coin, creating a bold, raised line through the center, and it was nicknamed the Railroad Crack by collectors. And when one of these error coins surfaced at auction, it sold for $127,000, an astounding price for a modern quarter. But that was just the beginning. Another group of Utah quarters came out of the mint with an even more shocking flaw. There, a double strike error where the design was imprinted twice, offset by several degrees. On these coins, the trains appeared ghosted, almost like they were in motion. The first certified example, graded MS-65, sold for $68,500, and prices have climbed ever since. The combination of a beautiful design and dramatic minting error made this quarter an instant legend. Then came one of the most jaw-dropping discoveries in recent memory, and a transitional planchet error where a 2007 Utah quarter was accidentally struck on a 90% silver planchet left over from a commemorative issue. This mistake should have been impossible, but when the coin was tested and authenticated by NGC, it shocked the numismatic world, selling for an incredible $372,000 at auction. The coin weighed slightly more than a normal quarter and had a faintly different ring when dropped, details that eagle-eyed collectors immediately picked up on. Even without major errors, high-grade Utah quarters can fetch serious premiums. A flawless, uncirculated MS-69 example with sharp detail and full mint luster recently sold for $18,750, showing that perfection alone can turn even a common design into a collector's treasure. What makes the Utah quarter so fascinating is how unpredictable it is. You could find one like this in an old coin jar, slightly worn, a bit scratched, and never realize you're holding something potentially worth thousands. Minting technology has advanced, but even in 2007, accidents still happened, and those rare moments are what fuel the thrill of modern coin collecting. So next time you come across a 2007 Utah State Quarter, take a closer look. Check for cracks, doubling, or unusual shine, because just one small minting error could transform that ordinary piece of change into a historic find worth well over $300,000. And coming up next, we're diving into another state quarter that redefined modern rarity, and one that left experts stunned and collectors scrambling to find just one more hidden in plain sight. And finally, we've reached the coin that erupted into the spotlight, the 2012 Hawaii Volcanoes quarter, a coin that quite literally captures the explosive spirit of the islands and the fiery surprises of U.S. mint history. Now, this one in front of us shows its journey as some scratches, dull patches, and a touch of oxidation. Nothing flashy at first glance, but here's the shocking truth. This very year in minting produced one of the rarest and most valuable modern quarters ever struck, with examples selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars. The 2012 Hawaii Volcanoes quarter became instantly iconic for collectors, not just for its design, but for the errors that appeared soon after release. One of the most dramatic was the reverse strike-through grease error, where parts of the lava and eruption details appear completely smoothed out as if the mountain were partially erased. It gave the volcano a ghost-like look, and the first example discovered in near-mint condition sold for $22,000, but that was just a spark compared to what was about to happen. A few months later, coin experts uncovered a version that defied explanation, a double-struck Hawaii Volcanoes quarter, with the second strike rotated about 45 degrees. The overlapping design created a surreal, almost motion-blurred effect, as if the volcano were erupting twice. PCGS authenticated it as a genuine minting error, and when it hit the auction block, bidding went wild. The final sale price, a stunning $198,000. Then came the most unbelievable discovery of them all, a proof error coin struck on a silver planchet meant for collector sets but accidentally released into general circulation. It had the wrong metallic composition, weighing slightly more and shining with a mirror-like luster. When this silver-struck Hawaii Volcanoes quarter surfaced and was verified, it shattered all expectations, selling for a record and $389,500. So even standard examples have held surprising value. A perfectly preserved, uncirculated Hawaii Volcanoes quarter, graded MS69 by NGC, sold for $16,750, an astonishing price for such a recent coin. That proves one thing: modern doesn't mean ordinary. For collectors, condition and rarity are everything. What makes the story even more incredible is that some of these rare errors were found in regular pocket change, discovered by people who had no idea what they were holding. The thought of a quarter worth nearly $400,000 slipping through daily transactions still amazes coin experts to this day. So take another look at your Hawaii Volcanoes quarters, check the details, weigh them carefully, and look for faint doubling or strange, smooth areas where the design should be bold, because one tiny minting mistake could make your coin a part of modern numismatic legend. And there you have it. And from Massachusetts to Hawaii, 10 state and national quarters that prove treasure can still be hiding in plain sight. Each one tells a different story of errors, perfection, and luck, reminding us all that sometimes the next fortune isn't buried in gold. It's sitting quietly in your pocket waiting to be discovered.